Welcome back to This Week in Bevy. This week we see Jarl start playtesting, further progress on Polder's building mechanics, and more. We also see the release of some interesting new particle features in Hanabi, including mesh particles and improved trails. The CLI working group has also produced the first release of a Bevy linter, which is possibly a great addition for sharing patterns and optimizations for the community. You might be familiar with Cargo Clippy, which is a collection of lints to catch common mistakes and improve your Rust code. Clippy can be great, but projects like Bevy have specific usage patterns that would benefit from different rules. On that subject, the CLI working group has released Bevy Lint, a collection of lints to check for Bevy-specific footguns and optimizations, as well as enforce project-wide restrictions and standards. This is a work-in-progress linter that has rough edges, but the goal is to upstream it into the Bevy organization at some point. You'll notice that currently it lives in the Bevy flock. Check out the release notes for instructions on how to use it, and check out the talk this Thursday at the 7th unofficial Bevy meetup for more detailed information. And this week, the merge train is headed up by Francois. The merge train is a maintainer level view into active PRs, both those that are merging and those that need work. The recent merge trains have all been focused on release candidate processes, including bug fixes and what's left to do. And with that, we're into the showcases. This is a logic circuit simulator that was built on a live stream. It uses Bevy and eGUI, with eGUI snarl powering the node graph. And next up, we've got a quick ray-marched fluid simulation experiment. The source code for this one is going to be cleaned up before being published. This next project is a laser pointer cat toy, an iOS laser pointer style cat toy you can control with any other iOS device. It uses Apple's multi-peer connectivity for discovery and transport and includes some Swift FFI work. From real-time cat toys to card games, this is a port of a multiplayer card game from Bevy 14 to Bevy 15 using the release candidate. And if you're a fan of simulation games, you might find some of the mechanics here familiar. This is placing some signs, items, and conveyors, and after the conveyors are placed, watching boxes run along that distance. And then we've got a new preview of a new Bevy Easy Portals demo, including being able to walk straight through the portal. It's likely we'll be able to see this in a crate release pretty soon. And wave function collapse is always a fun algorithm. This is an implementation of wave function collapse for 2D world generation in a multiplayer game powered by Bevy ECS LDTK. LDTK, if you're unaware, is a 2D level editor. Avian 2D also powers this alongside a custom wave function collapse algorithm. Up next, we've got the animation of custom properties and visualizations of linear and angular velocities in this humanoid. And for those that like the classics, here's a trebuchet made using Avian 3D. The goal on this one was to be as realistic as possible, and the video you're seeing right here can also be found on YouTube. Next up, we've got Bevy Motion Matching, which is a work-in-progress motion matching system. This shows a visualization tool trajectory matching a user's predicted trajectory and the best matched trajectory from the Mixamo dataset. And we've seen a bit of this game before. A new map was added this week, and the human enemies now have behaviors and animations. And from realism, we're moving on to tiles. This is Verkaboot Tessellate, which is a high-res tile set creation tool in the early stages of development. A brush engine powered by compute shaders has already been implemented. Next up, we've got Jarl, a fantasy colony builder, which has entered playtesting this week. This video shows off a number of the features of the game, including various building mechanics. If you're interested in getting involved, go head on over to the website and join their Discord. And of course, we've got to swing back in to check on Polder's progress. This shows off placing buildings on grids in the tiny planet city builder called Polder. I kind of like the aesthetic of this. It works with a cell shader that actually uses Bevy's shadows, as I understand it. And I always like the way things pop in in these kinds of systems. For another update that we've seen before, this 3D platform had some new features added. This includes using Velu Navigator to power a navigation mesh and elevators. The red mesh you can see here is the navigation mesh, as far as I can tell. And then we've got a concept project demonstrating internationalization integration and dynamic font loading. If I click on ES, which is Spanish, you can see all of the content changes. If I click back on English, you can see the content changes again, and so on and so forth for French and other languages. And we always love proof of concepts. This is an items and inventory proof of concept, complete with drag and drop functionality. And that's done with the showcases. We're into the crates with Bevy Simple I18N internationalization. This is bindings to the Rust I18N crate and is an opinionated approach to localization. Notably, this crate only supports Bevy 0.15, RC3 and up. And Bevy Hanabi 0.13 got a release. Bevy Hanabi is a GPU particle system, and 0.13 is a release for Bevy 0.14. Notably, this brings official WASM support, arbitrary mesh particles, texture sampling, and a Trails and Ribbons API rewrite. Again, it's notable that this version is for Bevy 0.14 compatibility, and a different version will be released for Bevy 0.15 support. And next up, we've got Bevy Novel, a port of RenPy's scenario parser, and a Bevy implementation of it. This is, as you might imagine, a plugin for visual novels. Next up, we've got Bevy Channel Trigger. This allows you to send events via channels from anywhere, for example, on the web or through a CFFI, and get them into Bevy observers. This crate is paired together with something we'll see in the educational section this week, which is a blog post talking about why this exists the way it does. Next up, we've got Bevy Ambient CG, which is maybe a little easier to understand the use case for. Ambient CG includes a bunch of materials, and Bevy Ambient CG allows you to load those materials. I find this kind of thing really cool because it's always nice to have quick go-to materials and other assets whenever you're trying to create a new example. And for the educational section this week, we've got two major blog posts. One is about turn-based mechanics using Bevy's one-shot systems, which is just an explanation for how to power turn-based games with one-shot systems and the command pattern. This is a question I see fairly often, how to do turn-based games in Bevy, so it's really nice to see this kind of material start to surface. And finally, the post we talked about earlier for Bevy Channel Trigger. This is a short post about the crate and how to stitch Crossbeam together with observers. And that's it for this week. If you're interested in all of the bug fixes and various PRs that have gone in, they are all listed on the website, as well as all of the pull requests that were opened and the issues that were opened this week, if you want to get involved at a little bit of a deeper level. That's it for me for this week. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one.